Join me today as I return to the 15mm front with a special video focusing on Wittmann's Tiger Tank in Normandy. This is part of a series of videos I've planned with the anniversary of D-Day just around the corner. Let me know if you've enjoyed my return to the 15mm scene and if you'd like to see more Flames of War painting tutorials. Hi guys, and welcome to today's painting tutorial. So to keep in with the theme of D-Day and the anniversary that's just around the corner, I thought I'd paint a Tiger tank. So obviously something from the Axis side of things for this video, but we're going to make it a little bit more interesting and try and paint it up as Wittmann's Tiger. So Tiger 212, not 007. This Tiger is from Flames of War and it's part of their plastic kit. The plastic kit is fantastic and I highly recommend it. So to start off with, when we're painting our Tiger, I'm going to spray paint it in black. I use TS14 from Tamiya, which is a spray can. You can airbrush a black or any other type of spray can will do, but black is going to work really great for what I've got planned. And then to airbrush, I'm going to use dark yellow to thin at a 1:1 ratio with the acrylic thinners from Tamiya. Tamiya is a fantastic range of paints if you're just starting out with an airbrush. And for a cheap entry-level airbrush, I would highly recommend the Iwata Neo CN. It's a fantastic airbrush for painting smaller scale models, as well as obviously bigger scales. But yeah, it can really do the trick nicely. And then I use red, brown and dark yellow to mix at a 1:1 ratio, thin down at a 1:1 ratio. So do all of this in a mixing pot and you will be laughing. Really, it's just that easy to do. Now I know this looks really easy with the airbrushing, and I know it takes a lot of practice and a lot of patience, but you can get there. I've set the PSI of my compressor to 1 bar or 15 PSI, and the reason I've thinned it down at a 1:1 ratio is because it's going to help the paint from clogging, and it's going to help transfer that paint nicely. And then olive green and dark yellow at a 1:1 ratio, thinned at a 1:1 ratio, and just adding in sporadic little blobs all over the place. It's really good to practice on a piece of paper prior to doing all of this, or on a test model, just so you can get the right angles. But honestly guys, it is so straightforward once you get the technique right. If you would like to see a more in-depth video of how I actually airbrush, what the techniques I use are, what my compressor is, what my different types of airbrushes are, let me know in the comments. I would happily go through all of that with you. I know some of you have asked in the past, but if there's more than just a couple of people asking, then I would definitely get a video out on how I airbrush. So once that's done, you want to have something that looks like this. I like to leave the tracks off because they're easier to paint. So with the tracks off, I'm going to use German grey, and this is going to be to paint the rubber of the road wheels. I love Vallejo paints as water-based acrylic paints. I think they're just fantastic, but obviously a lot of people have their favourites. Unfortunately, I don't have every range possible, and I don't have good knowledge of other ranges, so Vallejo is what I normally go with, or AK paints. Then to paint the tracks, I'm going with black. Now bear with me when I'm doing this, because black is very dark and probably unrealistic, but it's going to work as our shade colour. And then we're going to dry brush it in a little bit. It's really going to make those track wings pop. I will say that this kit from Flames of War is just fantastic. Their plastic kits are really nice, to be completely fair to them. They are better than their resin kits that they used to sell, but they've pretty much predominantly moved to plastic now. So if you've been on the fence with the new plastic stuff, I know we've been with plastics for a while now, I'd really highly recommend checking them out and grabbing yourself a set. Now I'm going to use oils. So I'm using engine grease from Epidemicsound 502, thinned down with some odorless thinners or white spirits to make myself a wash. And you can see the wash in my palette there. When you're putting in your oil, just put a little blob, and I'm talking like just a blob, maybe of like a couple of mil, and then add some thinners, and just keep doing it until you get a watery substance that looks like a wash. Most of you guys should know what a wash is. So as long as you've got something that looks similar to what's in my shot now, where it's runny enough that you can place a little dot on the panel and the wash will run along the recesses. That's what you really want to accomplish. It does take a little bit of practice, but you'll get it really quickly. And then once the wash has been applied, give it half an hour to an hour, then come along and get rid of the excess. But when I say get rid of it, it's not like in an enamel wash where you would remove it. You actually want to blend it into the panel. The fantastic thing about oils is that they act as a great weathering paint as well. So you can blend these into the outside edges of the panel and they will just look a bit slightly worn whilst leaving the darker wash in the very corners of the recesses. Now for any of the metal, I go with German grey. So this step could have been done with the wheels of the vehicle, but I like to do this after I've done my oil wash and let it dry. You should, after cleaning oils, let it dry for quite some time, like give it 24 hours, even 48 hours if you can. I know sometimes you're itching to do it, but give it about 24 to 48 hours to dry and then come along and start painting everything else. Bearing in mind that when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you've given your model a coat of semi-gloss or gloss varnish just to protect it before you're doing your oil washes and decals. And then for the wood, I'm using flat earth. So I was just rambling on there. I've completely lost my train of thought. So the German grey before was for all the metal, so the towing cables, parts of the equipment, machine gun, etc. Now we're painting the wood, so the wooden handles of the axe, the shovel, any boxes that might be present on the vehicle. Now I'm using a black acrylic wash. So this is from Vallejo, but you can also use like Warhammer no oil and just a generic black wash, and that's to paint in all the really deep panels, so like exhaust panels, perhaps where the MG mantle is and stuff like that. And there you go. So no oil or Vallejo wash can be used there, and I'm just putting a little bit of that black wash in those little panel bits there as well. And I'm also going to give the equipment a wash of no oil and technical medium at a 1:1 ratio. Now I actually mix my own pot, so I pour half of the no oil out of its pot and then add in half of technical medium, and that is the wash I use for pretty much everything now. So I'd highly recommend giving that a go if you're a bit unsure of what wash you want to use. Now this part is layering, so I'm using German grey again and I'm going over the same colours. So we've originally put German grey down on all the metal items. We've given them a wash of no oil and technical medium at a 1:1 ratio. Now we're layering, so we're going back over those colours again, but we're leaving the wash in the real dark parts or in the recesses. So these are towing cables, these are tools, so there's going to be little nooks and crannies within those bits of equipment that you want to leave really dark, and then you want to start layering and coming up to the final highlight of just the individual bits of the equipment. So the next part is German grey and basil grey, and we're just going to start adding little links. Remember, this is a towing cable, so I'm trying to show that with just adding little lines simultaneously after each other as if it's a wound linkage or cable. And then with the tools, you just really want to start going on the outer edges and where the tools are lifting up opposed to like sort of bending in. And then finally we can go basil grey and German grey at a 1:1 ratio this time and really just capture the very small bits of highlights. I don't do the towing cables now it's purely just the equipment. And the principle is exactly the same with wood. So we're going over all the wooden items that we originally painted flat earth again, but obviously leaving the recesses in the dark base colour that's been washed. We're not going to put a layer of paint over that, we're just going to leave it. Hopefully you can see this in the video and what I'm trying to explain, because I'm a terrible person when it comes to explaining these sorts of things. And then flat earth and orange brown at a 1:1 ratio is going to be our next colour. Now this might be a bit overkill for this scale, you don't have to do this. You can move straight on to orange brown, which is what we're going to do next, which is the final highlight. And this is literally just picking out very minor details, the very outer edges of the panels, and just adding in a little line here and there just to really make them pop. Orange brown is a really bright color, so I like to complement it with a flat earth and orange brown 1:1 ratio mixture prior to putting in the orange brown, just to give it that subtle transfer between flat earth and orange brown. Now I'm using engine grease oils from Abteilung again, but this time I'm adding in little dots in areas that I want to show there's a bit of wear, and then I'm not putting anything on my brush, and you can do this pretty much immediately. I'm now blending that oil paint in, so it's not wet, it's just dry, and you can see that it's really starting to add like a dark effect around where that hatch is, and that's going to show that that hatch is obviously going to have a lot of wear. The crewmen are going to be going in and out of that all the time. Water and stuff's going to accumulate on there, so that's what I'm trying to show. Now, I mentioned it before with the tracks, I'm going to give them a dry brush. The dry brush I'm using is burnt umber, and I'm really being very carefree with this because you can get it on the track wheels as well, because burnt umber makes for a fantastic dusty mud colour. So just go mental with it. Just make sure that it's not wet. The dry brush is meant to be dry, so that's what you want to do. And then a very small dry brush of a silver colour. So I use base lead belcher from Warhammer, and just give it a very subtle, just little dry brush on the outer edges, just to give it a little bit of a silvery glow to it. Then for the final bits of weathering, I use Tamiya Weathering Masters set A and B. The set A for the dust effect, so I'm using sand and the mud effect in this one. And I'm really, again, being quite heavy with the amount of dust and sand and mud that I want to put on this. Obviously you want to target areas that are going to be more susceptible to accumulating mud and dust, so that's the tracks, and then obviously the side skirts and just the very bottom of the vehicle. You can do a little bit going up the sides, but don't go too crazy because it just starts to look unrealistic, especially at this scale, at least anyway. Now I mentioned set B. Set B has the soot and rust colour. So the soot I'm just putting in near the exhaust and where there would be some sort of engine grime and stuff. You can do all of this with your oils. This is just sort of cheating and adding in any extra bits that you might have missed. I also put a little bit of soot on the end of the barrel. I know the Germans didn't use or didn't have soot really with the ammunition they used. Or the method that they use. I mean, I don't know what the actual term is, so don't go too heavy, alright? And then the final thing I like to do is glue the tracks on. I think this is just so bloody satisfying. You get those tracks on and you go, oh well, it's a tank. And then to get rid of that gloss varnish, I'm going to use a flat clear from Tamiya, and it will get rid of that shine as shown in this part of the video. So here is the finished model. You have to let me know below how you found this. Now I said this is Wittmann's Tiger, and it's purely because he's got 212 on the back of the turret. The other decals unfortunately ripped apart. They were very, very old decals from the old resin set, so I thought I could get away with it. I couldn't. I could only get one of the three to survive the decal application process, so that's unfortunate, but hey ho, it's still Wittmann's Tiger and it still looks badass. Let me know below how you found this video and if you're going to be using this in the future. Huge thank you goes out to my Patreons and YouTube channel members for your continued support. Great news for all of the members and Patreons is that this is going to be part of a giveaway this month. So if you want yourself a very small little Tiger tank added to your collection, or if you're a Flames of War fanatic like myself, this will be a fantastic addition to your collection. Other than that guys, I'm going to leave it here and I will catch you at the next one.